When I was younger, I always wanted to be a reader. I envied all the people who could read books for enjoyment because I was below my reading level. I wasn't a good reader, and up until adulthood, I was not an avid reader. And now I read over 100 books a year. And I'm closing off a really good reading year in 2024. Now that I am a reader, one of my greatest wishes is to be able to read along with my friends. Luckily, a month ago, me and my friends started a book club. And the book we're reading this week, The Raven Tower, is the book we're reading for that book club. It's a very exciting thing. And on top of all that, Christmas is in 2 days. Welcome to the reading vlog. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention, I'm extending this reading vlog 2 days. I'm focusing on just this one book. I felt weird having a reading vlog that was partially in 2024, partially in 2025. So this is just going to be an awkwardly length 9-day reading vlog, and next week will be extra short. So what is The Raven Tower about? Well, I'm about 80 pages in, and I'm still not 1,000% sure. Part of the book is about this one person who is the aide to the heir of this kingdom. And we don't know about this aide's past. And this part of the book is told in the second person. So there's a narrator, I think it's like this god who's narrated and telling the story of you, this person, this aide, this mysterious stranger from the forest. And the other plot line we are following is the origin of this god, our narrator, how they became to be, how they became a god, who are they? Why are they the narrator? I'm not there yet, and that would be a spoiler, but it's quite compelling about how gods and entities come into power, come into themselves in this setting. It's very reminiscent of Terry Pratchett's book Small Gods, which is part of the Discworld, massive 41-page Discworld series, and Small Gods follows a little god where there's only one believer in it, so he has very little power, but he's trying to gain more believers. And that's something very similar to, in many ways very similar to the way gods in this book come to power, grow in influence. They, they give favors, or they accomplish tasks. They answer prayers to believers or possible people who might become believers, and then they are given offerings, they grow in power, and then they become a more prestigious deity. And it's quite compelling because the main god, or the big honcho in this part of the world, is the Raven. And the Raven blesses the leader of this kingdom, who is the friend, who in the heir to this kingdom is the friend of the main character, who is us. So yes, quite convoluted, but quite compelling. I was planning on filming my top 10 favorite books of 2024, but I'm paranoid about making that video, even though there's only a few more days left in the year, before I finish The Raven Tower, because I saw a lot of posts on Reddit about this book, about how this is amazing. People were saying it was better than The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wong, and that book has taken BookTube and BookTok by storm. And I haven't read that one, so I can't compare. But if this book is anywhere near that level, I'm pretty sure it'll end up on that top 10 list. And it would be criminal to make that list without first finishing this book. So hopefully, I really love The Raven's Tower. It's starting off slow, and then I can get to seeing how great it is. Thursday, the wife got me some decorations for the library, a custom-made Funko Pop doll, me in pajamas with a cape and a book. Very exciting. A little sign to put on the bookshelf. It'll be somewhere behind me for the next several videos, because this week's all about finishing The Raven Tower, which will be the last book I finish in 2024, and filming a bunch of videos because end of the year videos are very big on BookTok. You talk about how the year went, you talk about how next year is going to go, or at least your hopes and dreams and wishes for the following year. And I have a lot of good reads planned for next year. The Raven Tower, I'm glad I'm waiting to do my top 10 favorite books of 2024 until after I finish The Raven Tower, because this is shaping up to be a very good read. The book club, we're not, we all have different opinions about it. Some people find the second person narration to be very awkward, especially one of my friends. He just started reading fiction really a few months ago with The Shining and then a few other books. So this is only the second book we've read in the book club. And he's never read a book in the second person narration style before. And it can be quite awkward. A lot of, you did this, you hopped on the horse, you were traveling through the forest, you were probably thinking this, I knew you were special. I find it very easy to follow. I love second person narration. A lot of authors don't do it well, but Ann Leckie is doing it quite well. We're also pretty sure all the characters in this book are black or African, or Africa doesn't exist in this world, but they are dark skinned. They all have braided hair. The audiobook production is a lot of African accents, so that's kind of neat. Not sure if that's canon or just the narrator's stylistic, choice. The Raven Tower it's telling two separate stories. It's telling the stories of an origin of a god. This god is the narrator of the story, and telling the story of this mysterious stranger who comes to this town where the Raven's Tower is at, and they are accompanying the heir to the kingdom. And us, because second person narration, you are this mysterious stranger. And we're learning about the origins of this mysterious stranger, what is happening, this grand conspiracy in the city, and then also the origins of gods and religion and faith and power in this world. And it's quite compelling. Lots of interesting critique about philosophy and religion and prayer and blessings and all the politicking the gods do. It's quite compelling. Saturday, The Raven's Tower. Lots of nudity. A lot of nudity. There's one character who's naked for half the book. I'm 50% through. I'm not sure why the author decided to make this character naked, but I'm all for it. I love nudity in my books when it's not spicy, because then you're just doing normal stuff while nude. And that's relatable. Usually, when an author decides to put a nude character in the story, when they want to add some skin to the narrative, it's for a spicy reason. But not Ann Leckie, not the Raven's Tower. No, there's just a character who is naked for a purpose. I don't want to get into spoilers, but that's the most exciting thing that's happening so far in this book. 50% through, one character is just naked, buck naked. It reminds me of Stephen King's book, The Drawing of the Three, which is the second book in his Dark Tower, and why that's my favorite Stephen King book of all time at this point in my life is because there is a naked gunfight. Stephen King did not need to make a character naked during this gunfight. It did not add anything to the narrative. It was never referenced again. Well, at least as far as I know, I've only read the first 3 books. But this character was just naked for a gunfight. And in The Raven Tower, this character is just naked doing this thing that I can't tell you because of spoilers. But if that's something you're looking for, if that's on your book bingo, maybe The Raven Tower will be a good fit for that. Sunday. I just got done filming a video about 25 books to read in 2025. It took a very long time to film. I am exhausted. I am 78% through The Raven Tower. The plot is finally picking up. I'm liking where the story is going. Most of the people in the book club don't like it very much, but I find it to be very thought-provoking and intellectually stimulating. And I love our narrator, and I like our protagonist, and I like the directions the narrative is going. I originally wanted to read this book because I saw on Reddit that a lot of people said, like, yeah, The Sword of Kaigen is a great standalone fantasy book, but The Raven Tower is better. I have not read The Sword of Kaigen, but a lot of booktubers that I trust say it's an amazing read, perhaps one of the best standalone fantasy stories anyone's read. And I heard that The Raven Tower is better. And I'm not sure that is sane. I don't think that's true. And if it is, I don't think The Sword of Kaigen is that good. I look forward to finishing this book early, December 31st, and this will be the last book I read in 2024. And it's an interesting one. Tuesday, 8:20 p.m., New Year's Eve. I have finished the final book of 2024, The Raven Tower by Ann Leckie. And let me just say that this book is an all-time mid story. The reviews were fallacious. I don't want to get political, but so often, whenever a book is written and the main character is from a marginalized, underrepresented minority, people will just rate the book incredibly highly, just based off of that fact. And that's a completely valid reason to rate a book highly. As a person of color, I completely understand and sympathetic to those feelings, to that opinion, that when you could see yourself in the protagonist, in the main character, in the story, it's much easier to relate to that story. But I will say, representation does not equal a great story. Complexity does not equal a great story. Scope does not equal a great story. Just dialogue, just character work, just prose, none of these things done to a high degree makes a good story. And I feel like a lot of people who are saying this book is amazing when it came out some years ago were just like, oh, I've never seen a character that was like me represented in a fantasy story, which is untrue. But if you haven't read too many books, if you don't read as many books as someone like me, then I could see you being under that impression that there aren't books that represent your specific demographic. The Raven Tower was very frustrating, and I'm more frustrated because I was holding off on filming my top 10 favorite books of 2024 until after I finished The Raven Tower. Because I had very high hopes. All the reviews I saw on Reddit for this book were very good. People spoke very highly about this book. And I just don't think it was warranted. The characters were wooden, the climax happened, and then there was no falling action. Very little character development. I did not care for any of the characters. The dialogue was a bit choppy. Some relationships progressed far too quickly. And the emotional highs and lows never hit me. One of the plot lines, the one that was surrounding the god and the history of this god and the origins of this god, that was interesting. But the entire plot line that follows our aid to the heir of this kingdom was not immersive at all. I did not care at all for the story. And it's not because I'm not a part of the same demographic as the protagonist. It's just because the author just checked off some boxes and expected that to make a good story. And that is frustrating. This might be one of the biggest disappointments of 2024. I was seeing people compare this book to The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wang. And I didn't pick up that book this week because people are saying, well, if you thought The Sword of Kaigen was great, read The Raven Tower. It is even better. So I read this instead. And I just don't believe people on Reddit. Maybe it was paid individuals that were saying that. Perhaps it was bots. I don't know. But this book was incredibly frustrating. The prose is nice. And Ann Leckie does a very good job at writing from the point of view of non-human characters. That was nice. But there was a few details about this book that were very good, but overall, a very bad product. It's like baking a cake with the best flour and then just not putting high quality ingredients throughout the rest of the recipe. So it doesn't matter. It was a waste. And that is pretty damn frustrating. You read a good book, you read a really good book, it puts you in a reading slump. You read a bad book, it puts you in a reading slump. So I'm in a reading slump at the end of the year. But that's fine because I have a list of 25 books I'm going to read and focus on next year. And I'm reading one of those books next week. And I'm also starting the Vinland Saga, which is one of the most popular seinen manga that is ongoing. And a lot of people are saying that Vinland Saga is going to be ending next year or early 2026. So now's the perfect time. What are the numbers for 2024? I have read 18 works of nonfiction, 50 novels, 7 novellas, 31 short stories, 74 volumes of manga, and 1 graphic novel. Over 100 titles, 75 books, a lot of manga. A lot of the short stories were Amazon original stories, so they're standalone. So those are technically books, but we're splitting hairs at that point. This was my best reading year to date. I found, I think, 4 books that are in my top 10 now. That is awesome. This week, I just read a lackluster book, and I enjoyed time with my family. And I did not end 2024 with a bang, but a whimper. But 2025 is the year where things get real. I have so many things planned. I have my action plan for the channel for 2024. And I'm excited to see how much the channel grows, how much this community grows in the coming year. It's going to be great. This week was mid, but next week's going to be even better. I'm super excited for 2025. 2024 was a very rough year in my personal life, in my work life, but in terms of reading, it was pretty dang good. Thank you guys for watching this reading vlog, and I'll see you next year.